Welcome to Make Shit Happen. This is episode number 16. We are with Crystal Sarmiento today. Crystal, how you doing? Thank you for coming in.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm fantastic.
Crystal is going to be the author of your brand new book coming out, Becoming a Lioness.
Yes.
Are you excited about the book?
Yes, I think excited is an understatement.
So I met you several years ago, and you were very annoying. I remember you were buying some furniture with me with
Yep.
your ex-husband.
Why do we have to bring that up?
And then I'm like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden you popped up on my Instagram one day. I'm like, oh my God, this lady's annoying. How are you doing today now? All jokes aside, how are you doing?
No, we're good. We're good. I'm good. I'm fantastic.
All
What
right.
about you?
I'm doing well.
Making shit happen.
Making shit happen. That's what it's about. Well, let me ask you a question since you brought that up, making shit happen.
Yeah.
What is your definition of making shit happen?
Making shit happen is getting up and like literally telling the voices in your head and all the excuses that overwhelm you to shut the hell up.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally shut up and not listening to it and just doing it. Like,
And just doing
no
it.
excuses. You have to force yourself to do it. Make shit happen.
Make shit happen.
Make it happen.
So I know you're writing a book.
Yes.
And what made you write a book?
There's a lot of factors that go into that. I think the biggest thing for me is the fact that just being in corporate America for 20 years, 1, 2, raising children, 3, the lessons that I learned. Obviously, I felt like people that I come in contact with, especially in church, because obviously I helped forever for about 13 years. Whenever these stories would come up in lessons, constantly I was hearing, you need to write a book. It's been about 12 years since somebody sowed that seed in my heart, and I didn't do anything. I didn't make shit happen. I just sat on it. And eventually it came to a day where I was like, that's it. No more excuses, no more fear, right? You got to overcome the fear and just do it.
You know, writing a book can be a very daunting task. I mean, people have been telling me for 5 years, you should write a book, you should write a book. And I'm like, I don't even know what the hell am I going to write about. And I mean, lately I've been thinking about it more. I mean, but eventually, maybe one day I might be brave enough to do the same thing that you're doing. So I commend you for doing that.
Thank you.
Crystal, we got a lot in we got a lot in common. But I don't want to talk a lot about me. I want to talk about you. People who are listening to you right now, they're wondering, who is Crystal? Tell us a little bit about yourself, Crystal.
Goodness, I can talk for hours. I'm
sure you can.
I think for the most part, most people who come across me who don't know me behind closed doors would consider me a professional in the corporate world, a powerhouse in what I do, completely competitive, and I don't take no for an answer. Behind closed doors at home, I'm a dedicated wife, a dedicated mother. I love God, Jesus. I specifically commend that to being to the core of who I am. And I'm just another woman who is not afraid to tell her story. All
right. So I know you grew up with your dad. You had told me a little bit about you. So, your dad was, your dad raised you. Tell us about your early life, if and about your dad. And I know you said your dad is your hero.
Yeah. I think the definition of hero changes as you evolve and grow into your own womanhood, and as you grow into yourself and you learn who you are, and we identify who we are. I think that as a child, number one, being a girl, females tend to always look up to their fathers for whatever reason, whether he's in the home or out of the home, and we choose to identify who we are based on that, and we kind of imprint our identity based on that. But yeah, my dad, I credit him and my mom a lot, but my dad, it's not your common story. He was a single father, immigrant, Mexican, from Mexico. Obviously, I said Mexican. He really taught me what the foundation of hard work and no excuses is. He came from Mexico, very young age. He had lost his mother over there. And he was educated, if you will, and came here and did what the stereotypical Hispanics are known for. He started a landscaping company. I don't know how long it's been. It's been well over 30, 40 years ago. But one of the things that I admire him is his work ethic. I mean, my dad, to this day, he's in his early 60s. He gets up rain or shine. He goes out there and he makes it happen, like literally. Some of the best memories I have growing up are those one-on-one moments I had with my dad, where my friends would ask me like, oh, wow, your dad comes to, pick you up from school or drop you off, or, some of those things that they didn't have. But at the same time, it was a resounding message that, my mom wasn't there either for that period of time, obviously. But he was phenomenal. I mean, you've got to give the man credit for being a single Mexican immigrant father with English a barrier to raise, a little girl who, for the most part, doesn't look like your typical Mexican, So we would get questions.
So let me ask you, your dad is your only child?
No, I have another brother.
Uh-huh.
And he and I both have the same parents, my mom and my dad.
Uh-huh.
And then I have another brother that my mom had out of her second marriage.
So you did not grow up with your mom?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I did not. No,
okay,
unfortunately.
So your dad raised you.
My dad took the reins. And that's not to hold my mom to like indict her for that. I think that, and a lot of this is in the book. Is growing up as a little girl in the southwest side of Houston, I went to a predominantly mixed racial, ethnicity school, if that's even proper to say. It was, 30% Hispanics. It was about 50% white, Indian, Asian. It was super diverse. I loved it. But I would get asked a lot of questions like, where's your mom? Where's your mom? All that kind of stuff. And I think that for the most part, she was always around. She was a phone call away. But the traditional setup was my father had custody of me.
Okay.
And it wasn't
so like in the house when you went home, it was your dad. Your mom wasn't
there.
That must have been a little hard.
Of course. It was hard. It was. And it's hard because it's in a child's DNA to crave nurturing and to crave affection from a mother and from a father. And, I think that part of our coping skills is you don't really focus on what you don't have when you're a child. It's not until you're an adult where, for instance, I found myself, making breakfast or doing those type of things for my own children where I was like, wow, I really reflected back and was like, I really missed out on some of these things,
How old is your oldest child?
My oldest is 21.
How old are you?
You would ask me that, Sam?
You should never ask a woman her age, huh?
I don't care.
You look like 34, 35. How old are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm 38.
38. Yeah. Okay. Oh, so you had a child at an early age.
I did. I was a teen mom.
Teen mom.
That had a whole bunch of obstacles.
And so now with the Mexican dad who was raising you, how did he take that?
I think
tell us walk us back into memory lane.
Oh
tell
my
us a little
God,
bit.
you want to go way back to the days.
Yes.
So here's the deal. So my dad, let's get comfortable because this is we're about to pull back some layers of the onion here.
Uh-huh.
My dad was a traditional hardcore Catholic. I give him a lot of props because taking on the load of raising a little girl in the U.S. against everything he was raised with, without the the stability of a wife and all the challenges that come with it, he did the very best he could. Obviously, I look back and I'm upset about certain things, like, oh, I wish things would have gone this way or the other, and I could have been given proper tools maybe so that I wouldn't have made bad choices. Ultimately, it comes down to me making bad choices, right? I can't put that on anybody. I can't. Yes, I did have a child when I was in high school, and I faced a choice, and I, with the love and support of both my mother, my biological mother, and my stepmother, both came around me and helped me to make a good choice for me in that moment. But to come back to my father, so that's kind of scary. When you come home and your dad has raised you and literally drilled into the very core of your being, foundation of abstinence, of putting God first and purity. I mean, my dad did all those things. He did the right things. He took me to church. He raised me the very best way he could.
Uh-huh.
And so when I made a stupid choice, right, in the moment, I had to face the consequences of that. And so my dad... he was not happy. You can imagine.
So is that in your book?
It is. There's a lot in the book about that specific
So book is
story.
a lot about your life story.
There's bits and pieces that really dig deep into the life story and the lessons that came out of that, but it's also other things about finding identity and things like that.
Tell us a little bit more about the book, if you don't mind. I know you don't want to give it all away, but
I don't.
give us a little bit what the book is about.
So I think one of the messages that I'm super proud to share in the book is how to make shit happen.
Okay.
I think at the end of the day, we live in a culture, in a society where women are hearing the tag phrases, the tag words, women empowerment, confidence, strong is beautiful, choose happy, all these taglines. Excuse me. But at the end of the day, they're not taught how to find that. Like, how do you find that confidence? It's like, well, I'm confident. Well, where did that come from? That confidence you don't just wake up with it, especially when you've had a hell of a childhood, especially when you've had hard times, when you've had to wake up and or cry yourself to sleep, or had hard choices that, life dealt you that you didn't choose. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the times things are given to us that we didn't ask for, and we have to make a choice. Am I going to face this head on, or am I going to buckle in shame and cry and make excuses, right? So in the book, I talk about those lessons and how to dig deep and pull those up. You know what I mean? I'm all about women empowerment. I'm all about also honoring men, because we're nothing with that. There's a healthy balance there. Obviously, I don't want to go into that too much, but I think a big resounding lesson in the book is where's the source of that identity? Is it something that someone called you? Is it something your parents called you? Did you identify yourself from your work, your success? Well, where do you get that from, right? And that's really the biggest thing for me is helping, mainly women, but also men identify those questions, and if not, help them do that,
So, how did you get that title? How did you come up with the title,
Oh,
Becoming
that's
a
a good
Lioness? Yeah.
That
That's a pretty good, and I've seen like a lioness. So tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. So the lioness, that has been in the making for about 8 years, 8 or 9 years. I started hashtagging that. I think it was Abby's 7. So I want to say 8 or 9 years ago. Everybody knows my maiden last name is De Leon, which means of the lion in Spanish.
Right.
That's one of the reasons. Another reason is just growing up, I always seen the image of a lion being powerful and majestic, and a lot of big corporations, MGM Grand, all these others, they use a lion, right? And it all ties back to identity. Where do we seek that identity? A lot of the times it's things that people call you, either your name or something, right? And so at the end of the day, I began to identify with De Leon. And it wasn't until I did the soul searching where I tried to find that deep down inside, where I began to say, you know what? God put that in my name, so I need to find that and unleash the lioness. And not a lion, but a lioness, because there's power in knowing who you are and where you stand. And there's power in knowing the difference between a lion and a lioness. And I read a book, I want to say it was in 2011, by Lisa Bevere. It's called Lioness Arise. So that title was quick. It quickened my soul. Let me read this book. It's a faith-based book, but ultimately it taught me so much about the characteristics of a lioness. In the pride out in Africa and in the deserts, the one who does the hunting is the lioness, because don't get offended, but the lion is usually too lazy to go out and hunt. And because the lioness is more agile and she's quick and she just has better hunting skills. And while she's out doing her hunting, the lion is back protecting the pride. Because if you know a little bit about prides, if he's weak, then another lion will come in and take over the pride. But that comes with consequences. He'll kill the cubs and then dominate the lioness. So therefore, although she does her hunting, there's a beautiful balance between the two. Yeah.
So in the jungle, the lion stays at home.
In the jungle, the mighty jungle. Yep.
The lion stays at home.
He stays there. He's yep.
What would you feel? How would you feel if your lion stayed at home?
Been there, done that.
Oh, really? Tell us a
yeah.
little bit about that.
No, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but unfortunately, for many years of my, my previous marriage, I like to call 1.0. That was a trial version. I had to go out and work. I had to do the hunting. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
So let me ask you a question. I mean, you said 1.0 divorce.
Yeah.
Sometimes, women don't want to get out of the divorce. I mean, they might be unhappy. There might be, I mean, there's several women. I mean, I support, causes for, nonprofit, where women are victims, a lot of abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of women just, they still find it hard, even though they've been abused. They find it hard to break the barrier. And I mean, it can be a lot of stuff, right? I mean, it can be a man don't want to do something. I mean, I was taught a different way. And I don't want to bring religion into this thing, but, like I always tell people, I'm like, men don't want love. Men don't need love. Men just need respect.
That's right.
And but man's duty is to make sure that he goes out and, unlike the jungle, he goes out and fetch the food.
That's right.
And he goes out and, for me saying that because I don't eat bacon, he needs to bring the bacon home.
You gotta bring the bacon home. We can say bring the papa home.
Bring the bread home, huh?
That's it.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, so I believe in that. I mean, I truly do. So I mean, when a woman divorces, it takes a lot. I mean, I commend a lot of women who are like, I'm not happy, I'm out, I'm leaving, and I mean, it's easier said than done.
Way easier said than done.
What is your experience about that?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, some women, they just don't give a...
Some women don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
And that's okay. I think there's so much
I'm not trying to put you in that category. I'm not trying to put a lot of women in the category. I mean, there's women out there that's on to the next one real quick, real quick. I mean, one day, and I'm if anyone is listening, please forgive me. I sometimes tend to babble. I'm not talking about you, but yeah, I mean, for a good woman, especially when you have kids, you have a house, you have a family, it's just so hard to, get those chains out and move on. So tell me a little bit about that.
So, when you're from any type of ethnic culture, like a Hispanic home, we are raised, yes, religion-wise, right? That's the foundation of our culture. Whether or not it's taboo to say it, I'm not afraid to say it. In this day and age, people are too afraid to speak about, what their beliefs are and why they are who they are, okay? For me, that was my goal. That was my ultimate dream, right? Which was what bounded me to stay in a unhealthy marriage. I mean, ultimately, it was the fact that I was going to do whatever it took to make that work. Why? Because in our culture, you don't get divorced. You get married once. And not only that, but I had suffered living in a single parent household. But then when my father remarried to my most amazing stepmother, I got to see what a healthy marriage looked like. So I was determined, I'm going to make it happen. There was abuse, physical, mental, verbal. And a lot of the reasons I didn't leave that was fear-based. I mean, it was fear. It was, what's the family going to think? Are my kids going to be able to survive in a single-parent household? Making money was never an issue because I'm a hustler. Whatever it takes, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to make it happen regardless. It was more of, the fear of being a single mom, having to face the world alone and then having to go to my father and my mother and say, I'm getting a divorce. Like, that word sometimes shakes people's core with massive fear. Why? Because we don't want to spread out and break ties with what we once had this big dream. When we get married, as number one is women, right? It's a dream that we're getting married for. And that would, the accepting of that failure can be detrimental to some. And so instead of making a choice, a lot of women and men choose to stay there even though they're unhappy. Now, I will never advocate for a family unit to get a divorce just because you don't get along. That is never, I think, a reason to break up a family unit. Now, if there's no kids involved, that's your choice to make. My beliefs are different in the Bible, but I had to hold my head up high because at the end of the day, what was I teaching my daughters? What was I teaching them? That it's okay to take this? Because statistically, girls are going to seek a husband that reminds them of their father. And the way the mother and the father relate at home is what, whether or not we believe it, they're going to look for that subconsciously. Subconsciously, they're going to seek that, and they're going to think that's okay. I had enough. I had just had my third daughter, and I was not about to put them through the same dysfunction. And I had to look myself in the mirror and say, I am worth it. I am worth it. And if this is not going to change after 13 years, enough. And I think that it comes to a point where either you do it or you don't. Every day you wake up and you make a choice. You make a choice to, like you say, make shit happen. Either get up and go to work. You make a choice to accept things to happen to you, or you make them happen. And I think that now, today's day and age, it's easier to get a divorce, right? Now, I was taught, I served in church for 13 years. I facilitated family foundations, counseling sessions and groups. And that was our banner. Divorce is not an option. And they still preach that. So for me to walk up into church, right, and be that woman that did all those things and say, I'm getting a divorce, was hard. It was not easy.
Because people are looking at you as a hypocrite.
Absolutely. And they're judging. And they're judging, not only that, but they're judging me by the God that I serve. Like, oh, I thought you were a Christian. What happened to this, Jesus, and he's a prosperity Jesus? At the end of the day.
How did you face that?
With my head up high. No excuses. I didn't have to apologize to anybody because at the end of the day, I wasn't going home to them. And you didn't die for me on a cross. They are not my God. They are not my Savior. The only person I had to answer to was the God that I serve, and answer to myself and answer to my kids. Because ultimately, every decision we make sets up a legacy. Whether we believe it or not, every choice that us as parents make affects our children and our children's children, right? The choices that my mom and my father made affect my children. They probably weren't thinking about that. Or my grandparents. My grandparents made choices to get a divorce. I'm like, that generational thing has carried on 3 generations. And that was another reason why I was like, I refuse to get divorced. But you know what? I did it, and I cannot thank God more for giving me the courage to do it, because abuse is not okay. It's absolutely not okay, no matter how you sugarcoat it or cover it up. And in church, and I'm sorry, a lot of people are going to hold me accountable to this, but I have been to women's Bible studies where they sit there and say that you just have to keep praying for that abusive man. That is not okay. That is bullshit. Straight bullshit. It is not okay. And I think that it is a time.
Pray for what? That he stops abusing you?
Yeah. Pray for his heart to change. You know what? At some point, if that man is not changing, then you have to make a choice.
Let me ask you a question. I mean, when a man is abusive, do you think he got that from his upbringing? Because I see kids at I have a furniture store. I see kids around, and I see like sometimes little kids. Kids are gonna be kids, right? And then the kids did start acting bad, and their mothers don't say nothing. When they cry, their mom gives it to them. If they want a toy and they scream, their mom gives it to them. I've seen kids beat their mom, slap their mom.
No.
I mean, and I feel like, if the kids are kids, they're 2 years old, they're 3 years old, they're just kids. Yep. It's what you show them, right? Yep. I saw it on Instagram the other day. Like, this girl had posted a picture of her kid. She's like, he don't like to put his clothes on. And someone commented on the bottom, well, he learns from his mom. Put your clothes on, and he'll put it on. And I'm like, oh, shoot. But we learn from our parents, right? And I mean, if our parents instill that behavior in us, that it's okay to hit them or hit other kids or to be a bully in high school, or I mean in elementary school or high school, or beat kids in the park, and stuff like that. And if the parents keep condoning that behavior, I feel like the kids grow up to be that person.
Absolutely. So statistically, men who have seen that at home and got away with it, where the culture permitted it, will repeat that act.
And it doesn't have to see the men seeing their fathers, beat their mom or be abusive to their mom. Just like I'm saying, little kids who are allowed from their parents
from their own parents who allow
or that
them
outburst and
absolutely
going crazy. And I mean, you've been in a grocery store and you've seen kids just screaming on top of their lungs, and their mom not doing nothing.
Nothing.
I'm like, let me whoop the crap out of your kid.
I'm gonna punch your kid. You better.
I don't want to punch him. I just want to smack him. I mean, I'm like, and I want to tell the parents, hey, if you just give it to them so they'll stop crying,
what are you teaching them?
What are you teaching them?
That you can cry to get your way. I think that's a huge issue with culture today, and I have strong opinions about it. So some people may not want
Kristen,
to.
I gotta tell you, I've seen Hispanics, blacks, Indians, whites, everybody. I'm gonna tell you what. I'm not lying to you. The way I grew up, if I ever yelled, man, my mom
backslap. Backslap.
I mean, my mom whooped me by rolling pins. My mom has broken so many rolling pins on me. I mean, hangers.
Yeah.
I think when I was 13 or 14, my mom even whooped me with an extension cord.
Oh, snap.
And I mean, but you know what? I never, parents are so worried about if I whoop my kid will hate me. No, I love my mom.
Oh my gosh. I think, so back to that point is I'm not a child psychologist by any means or an expert or a professional, but I can tell you this. One of the things that I did learn in these seminar groups and family foundations and all these things is two things. When you raise a kid with no discipline, they become rebellious. But when you mix discipline with respect and love, that breeds respect.
Exactly.
And your kids grow up to respect you. I was the same way. My dad was not shy with his hand. He had a heavy hand. Now, some people will say that that's why, you permitted, a spouse to treat you that way. It can be. I don't know.
I don't think so.
At the end of the day, I think that this culture is raising a bunch of sissies. Yeah. And if you do not know how to tell your kids no, and they get out in the real world and they apply for a job or they go out there and they don't know the word no, what are you raising? I mean, at the end of the day, it's about that.
Growing up, my mom whooped me probably almost every day. And I can probably remember my dad whooped me maybe less than a hand. I can't even count it on one hand. I mean, I think probably 4 or 5 times I got a whooping from my dad. But I still remember the time I got a whooping from my dad. I mean, hell, I remember this. I'll share this. I was 14. I think I was 14 years old. And my dad was like, when we eat dinner, you need to be on the table. And I was out there playing. And my dad kept calling me, and I wouldn't come in. And when I came in, and finally he came in and screamed, and I went out inside the house, and he whooped me so bad, I pissed all over my pants.
Sam.
I was 14 years old, and I'm not embarrassed to say that, but you know what?
Did you learn your lesson?
Let me tell you what. I was there on table every night, but I never stopped loving my dad for that.
That's the thing is that there's studies that show that kids who are raised in the most dysfunctional families still love their parents. Yeah. It's an innate quality that God put in us, period.
Yeah. It's just that animal instinct in us that we will always attract towards our parents. It is what it is. And enough of there. I always talk about, someone asked me the other day, hey, what do you think about self-doubt? And I told him, I'm like, it's just, I'll tell you what I said. Okay. But, do you ever battle with self-doubt?
All the time.
So what do you do about it?
All the time.
You want to do something and you doubt yourself. What do you do?
So it's not as easy as, boom, here's an answer. It depends what I'm doubting and how I'm going to overcome that. Being in sales, being a mom, being all the things that, that make the essence of Crystal, I've been through a lot of obstacles in life. And so doubt is something we all face. Every day you wake up and you have decisions to make, right? Do I want to go to the gym? Do I want to cook dinner? Do I want to just buy McDonald's? Do I want to do this? Do I want to step out on a limb and write this book? Do I want to be vulnerable to the entire world about very, very tough situations in my life? How do we doubt ourselves? Doubt will come and scream and destroy your mind if you let it. It's about the renewing of your mind, and it's about having a strong will to not allow doubt to become a root or deep-seated root inside your core. To me, you either choose to let that doubt sink in and you feed it, or you stop it right there and you replace that with something positive or think about something powerful. For me, when I doubt myself, I psych myself out. I'm like, I can do this. And you know what? That comes back to fear. Why am I doubting myself, right? And so what if I do it? Finding that courage to say it's okay to fail, right? Doubt isn't the end of the world. Doubt sometimes can be super healthy, right? And doubt is actually a good thing because it makes you double check yourself. It makes you look back and say, all right, what do I need to do to overcome this doubt? Or maybe this is just my insides telling me, my inner core saying, tap the brakes, look at the situation. How do I fix it, right? It's an opportunity. Doubt can be an opportunity.
Doubt can be an opportunity. Yeah. So, you said, maybe I fail. Have you ever faced any failures in life that you'll be like, man, I wish I would have done that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Who are we kidding? I mean, no one's perfect. I'm far from perfect. I think I make massive mistakes a lot. I've failed hard, but I've also gotten up hard. I think one of the key things to me and to who I am is the Bible. It says 7 times you'll fall, but 7 times you'll get back up, right? So that gives you permission to say you're going to fail, but you're also going to get back up. An example of failing is losing my temper with my children. Sometimes I like to be the cheerleader of raising powerful women, but at the same time, I fail on a daily basis. I lose my temper. I'm a strong believer in what you call your kids or your family members is going to impart into them who they are. And sometimes I fail at that. Clearly, I failed in picking, my first partner. I mean, those choices, you know what? But not all the failures have been detrimental. None of them have killed me. And they've all taught me lessons, and they've made me stronger. And they've taught me that it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes, but you learn from them.
So you mentioned a couple of times about empowering women and stuff like that. So I know that you're involved in some of the movements over here in town, or some or say some organizations. Tell us a little bit about what do you.
So, for me, in this day and age, you can count like 12 different organizations online that have the name of Houston that want to like really empower women, and they scream or they use that tagline to sell clothing or articles or whatever to draw attention to it. I love women empowerment. But by no means does that mean that we bash men, right? Again, there's that healthy balance. Women empowerment to me is giving women the opportunity to find that lioness inside of them, to reach for the stars, to be able to, learn and teach them, not just say, oh, we're going to get together and we're going to scream women empowerment. It's more than that. It's like, how do you empower yourself? Where do you get that empowerment from? What is your source of empowerment? Is it just like, hey, I want to use this banner and fly it high? No, it's let's come together, and how do we help each other? How do we lift each other up? Which is difficult because women are known for being catty, not like dudes. Dudes will get in a fight, just like on a football field, and then they make up tomorrow, and then boom, they're drinking beers the next day. Women are more emotional. Women are more territorial. And I think that we really need to be pioneers to break down that barrier and say it's okay to lift each other up. There's power in that. There's power in lifting your fellow sister up and saying, how can I help you? What are some of the goals that you want to reach? How can we come around you and help you meet those? But also creating a safe place for women to come and be like, oh my God, I almost wanted to choke my husband today. And being able to bring that to the surface and talk to somebody who's not going to judge you and be like, oh, so-and-so's having marital problems. Everybody has problems.
But women are so judgmental too.
Women tend to be very judgmental, but that's from a source of insecurity. It all comes from that source of, am I going to lose something? or your fear. It's all fear-based. And so if we can come together and kind of like strip that back and help people, or women for the most part, it's okay. It's totally okay. But to answer your question, I recently joined forces with an amazing organization. There's multiple that I'm, very fond of, but Houston Businesswoman. I absolutely love the message, the foundation, not only that, but the members. Everybody that's come together, everybody supports each other. I have seen other types of organizations that there's a little bit of cattiness, but this one even more so has opened the doors for other people who are doing the same thing to come together and partner.
Got you.
It's phenomenal.
Now you also have this Becoming a Lioness meeting thing. What is that?
So it's a faith-based women's meeting. It's a non-traditional Bible study. It is faith-based. It is where we get to the root of a lot of issues. And it's a safe place where women can come together, but also a lot of times in business, right, when we want to be successful, we seek these things and we've got this like goal or this motivation, but we've got something inside that isn't quite right. And so sometimes in order to hit that mark of success and be, how would I say, like free, right? To find that freedom to really break down all these inside internal soul barriers so that you can reach that. When you couple that with your inner strength, then your business is going to succeed a lot of the times, because something painful, right, has either caused you to break out and want to become an entrepreneur or work in corporate America. Both are okay, right? Like you said, right, not everybody's built to be an entrepreneur. Sometimes being an employee is good. But when you couple a healthy soul, you're going to succeed. But when you have a lot of crud and undealt with situations, or you really have identity issues, then you're going to end up working super hard for this business, but never really uncovering who you really are. And people buy from people, right? And so now, this day and age, when we have these businesses, you're all over TV. People are buying from, right?
Yeah.
From Super Sam.
Yeah. So I'm glad you listened to my Instagram and my podcast and everything. People don't have to be. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You can work for somebody to be successful.
Absolutely.
So, Becoming a Lioness, the meeting is more faith based. But if somebody is don't believe in the same faith,
it's a great question.
I mean, can they join?
Everybody can join. So, like I said, it is faith based. What that means is that we might.
Are y'all reading Bible together over there, or what are y'all doing?
Scripture. Yeah. There's an organized, layout for how we're gonna tackle that. But for instance, at one of my meetings, I had a Catholic female there, a woman who doesn't go to church, another woman who was raised Pentecostal, but really doesn't do that. To me, it's not about what religion you are. It's not about that. It's about finding our identity in the Creator of the universe.
Got you. The book is coming out on Mother's Day, you said. So
initially, with my publishing company, we were talking about coming out in April. That was a deadline, but then we strategically came together and they want to drop it Mother's Day. Yeah.
So how many chapters in the book? Is it a pretty extensive book? Is it a short book? Or are we going to have to find out? Oh, it's an introduction.
So it's an introduction. It's a taste of what Becoming a Lioness is. I'll tell you right now, there's a second book coming.
So there'll be a series of books.
There will be a series.
So what is the ultimate goal for Crystal? I mean, you're writing a book, but what do you want to do? I mean, is it do you want to do more women empowering stuff? What is it? So tell us a little bit about it.
I want to break barriers.
First of all, writing a book is a big, is a milestone. So tell us. What do you want?
So, I think one of my ultimate goals was one of the boxes that I needed to check, was writing that book. I'd been talking about it for years, and my husband a while back was like, "You keep talking about it, you need to just do it." Right? And that was part of overcoming the fear and just saying, you know what, I'm just going to do it. You know what? Whether it sells or it doesn't, at least I did it.
Right.
That's what matters. If it helps one person, I did it. I think ultimately, the goal is to help as many people as possible. It doesn't only need to be women. Men can also learn from that too, because you can learn how not to screw up a marriage, learn from our mistakes, and really fight for your family. For me, it's about leaving a legacy and changing the course of the destiny for my generations.
Uh-huh.
That's what it's about. It's not just about me. It's about my kids, and their kids' kids. Because whether we like to accept it or not, our grandkids are going to look back and be like, wow, my grandmother did this and my grandfather did that. And they will attach their source of identity to things that their ancestors did, just like we do. Like this whole ancestry thing. You see these commercials and people are like, oh, my great-grandfather was a pilot at 17. Oh, I've got that spark in me. Yeah, but he probably also...
Ancestry.com. Yes. There's a lot of people spending money on that.
I did it.
So before we end this interview, and I appreciate you coming, we always talk about, and you've heard, I'm sure you've listened to, I don't know if you've listened to a podcast before, but we talk about, if everything was to end today and there was nothing left, but you want to leave a message for your future generation, for the world out there, 3 things that you would, it can be from your experience, it can be something, how to live life, it can be by anything. What would you leave for your kids, your future generation, so they can say, oh, well, great grandma said that. And also for the world.
For the world.
3 things.
I think the biggest one is you have a choice. You have a choice. God created every human being in this earth with free will. Whether or not we choose to accept it, we have choices. And it's what we choose to do with those choices. Secondly is don't blame others for your screw-ups. Take ownership, course correct, and make those changes. Stop making excuses. Just make it happen.
Okay.
That's a whole chapter. I mean, we can talk about that forever. And I think a lot of the message that I've learned over life is that pride sucks. When you have pride, it destroys. Pride can kill families. Pride can destroy identities. And unfortunately, a lot of the times, admitting that we're prideful can set us back years and years and years. And so learning to be humble, learning to really, really be humble and never take anything for granted. No matter how hard you want to say you built something or these hands built this, those words can always be rooted in some type of pride. And I feel like whenever we're humble and we can give credit where credit is due, for me, it's always God. It always is, because whether or not we choose to acknowledge him, something other than ourselves is in control. And whatever you believe, that can be taken away in an instant.
So number 1, you have a choice. Number 2, don't blame others for your downfalls. Take ownership. And number 3, pride sucks.
Pride sucks.
Yeah, and learn to be humble. So
learn to be humble.
So ego is a big barrier. I mean, it can destroy a lot of stuff. I mean, I always, I'm a big advocate of humility, and I always think, I always say you always meet the same person twice. So leave a good impression the first time, so that when they see you the second time, they'll say something good about you rather than bad. You never know if you'll need them the second time. If you might meet them today, and then tomorrow they might be somebody who you need. You might meet this person and you're at the passport office and you have lost your passport and you're ready to go on a trip, and that person is that clerk sitting behind the desk and they remembers you. And
well, it's like in corporate America. A lot of the times people take for granted their boss, or they talk bad about their boss and they mimic and they spread things around. That's bad. That's a bad reputation to do that. 1, 2, you never know who's going to work for you or who you're going to work for.
You're going to work for.
I've seen it countless times how people miraculously, you burn bridges, 1, and then the person that you talked down to or humiliated end up being your boss or working for someone that you now need to sign that contract.
Exactly. And that happens. It always kind of, it's a vicious cycle. It kind of goes around. Now, before we end this interview, I had a couple of things I want to ask you, and which I should have asked before. So tell me, Crystal, what do you like to do as a person?
What do I like to do? I love to spend time with my husband and my family. I'm crazy in love with being active with him. We love to fish. That's one of the biggest things that people who are close and near and dear to us know, that anytime we don't have any kids, or even when we have the kids and we get a spare moment off of work, we jump on that boat and we head out to Galveston. We love to fish. Okay. Fishing's one of my favorite things.
Fishing?
Bay fishing, yeah. We don't do freshwater fishing. We haven't really explored that together yet.
A lot of
But
bait
yeah.
fishing, or maybe like deep sea fishing.
Deep sea fishing's my favorite.
Yeah, it's easy. That's why, huh?
It's definitely easier because you got the guys that are out there helping you. But I love that fight, man. I love fighting
you
that
love
big
that. You love the
fish.
fight.
I
Well,
love
especially in Galveston. I mean, especially when it's kingfish season or something the
gosh.
kingfish is
Or
good.
red snapper,
Or
yeah.
red snapper too. I mean, red snapper don't give that much fight, but
They don't. They're
yeah,
kind
but-
of lazy and heavy, but for me, I'm a little woman, so anything's a fight for me.
So are you a big fish eater? You're a big steak eater?
You know what? For the most part, I'm Mexican, right? So I grew up freaking carne asada and tacos and all that. I think lately with exploring plant-based options are definitely, beneficial. 100% beneficial,
Man, I can't get into that plant-based thing. Every time I try, like 3-4 days later, I'm like, I want some meat.
Let me tell you. I'll tell you what. So I embarked on a 21-day fast. It's called the Daniel fast. It's a Christian-based fast from the Old Testament. It's stupid, crazy hard. Everyone's like, who does that? So it was 21 days of strict vegan eating. And not just vegan. It was like no yeast, no processed food, no sugar, no refined sugar. It was so hard. I mean, my kids, everyone's like, you're crazy. But I'll tell you what. Those 21 days, I was doing CrossFit. I did not take one day off of CrossFit other than if I was sick or I was out or I couldn't make it.
You did 7-day?
21-day fast.
So, but 21-day fast and 21 straight days of CrossFit?
No, not 21 days straight of CrossFit. But I go 3 to 4 times a week, and I made almost every single one of those. And the energy level that I had and the strength that I had was crazy, absolutely crazy. So
And
I'm a testament to that.
I'm a big sucker of dessert and ice cream and sweets and stuff like that. I mean, that's one of my vices. I mean, I hate it, but that is. I mean, besides that, I mean, I love food.
Don't we all?
Yeah,
It's like my love language.
I love food. I love crawfish. I love steaks, and I love
crawfish. Don't start.
And I mean, oh my God, I love tres leches. I love all
Uy, unos tres leches.
And you know what I love?
Flan.
Every time I eat ice cream, every time I eat crawfish, I crave ice cream.
Of course, because it's spicy, and so you want to
it's
like the dairy with the crawfish.
But Crystal, thank you so much for coming.
so
Thank you for
welcome.
being on Make Shit Happen, and I appreciate you taking your time from your busy
you.
schedule. I know you're a busy professional mom, book writer, women empowerment lady, and thank you, guys. You heard this. Thank you, guys. You heard this on by Crystal Sarmiento. Her book is coming out, Becoming a Lioness. Please make sure you look forward to that book on Mother's Day. And, I think this was a great episode. Again, Crystal, thank you so much.
Thank you.